The HRA meeting? You know where the HRA building is? It's just to the south of Shelley's funeral building. They have the bottom part.
Please join me for Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to all of you here for our county board meeting here on September 20th. And the board thanks everyone for their patience with us as we're getting a little bit later start today due to the water festival out at Camp Ripley and the board's attendance there for all of our students in Morrison County coming there. So thank you for your patience. Gentlemen, we have...
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Jelinski, or excuse me, Commissioner Lemire.
Second.
Commissioner Jelinski has a second to the agenda. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the agenda is approved. I look to our administrator, Mr. LeBlanc. We have employee recognition.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would ask Anne Marie Zimmerman and Brad to come forward, please. So, gentlemen, once again, I take great pleasure and pride in this opportunity to recognize one of our employees, Anne Marie Zimmerman, and she's with the Health and Human Services Department, and that's why I brought down our director, Brad Vold, here today. But great job, and another fine example of our employees going above and beyond. One of our values is striving to understand, and Anne Marie exudes that. Another one of our imperatives is a resident-centric structure, and that is also something displayed. And I'm going to read to you the nomination that was submitted by a supervisor because of her actions, and you'll see how resident-centric structure and striving to understand both are embedded in this little vignette here that is true and factual. So on Tuesday, August 30th, an elderly Morrison County resident who was wheeling an oxygen tank came into Health and Human Services to purchase bus tokens. She was going to call a shuttle to take her to the chiropractor 1 block away from the government center. Anne Marie realized this would be a time-consuming process to get her moved just 1 block. Knowing that there was a wheelchair available in the mailroom, she saw an opportunity to spend just a few minutes and make a world of difference in an elderly person's day. Anne Marie asked the citizen to take a ride in the wheelchair, and in 5 minutes was able to get her safely across 2 busy streets and to her appointment on time. Great job going above and beyond, making Morrison County a place our residents are proud to call home. So thank you, Anne Marie. Please give her a round of applause.
So just one correction, I believe it was Jim who wrote the that's not important. And so Teresa's here too, as Audi is, and as we know, our front desk is the face of the organization, and customer service is paramount to what we do, and Anne Marie, Teresa, Audi certainly represent that, and we really appreciate the work that they do. So again, it just goes to show how resident-centric they are, so really appreciate it.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. LeBlanc and Anne Marie. I couldn't be more proud to be in this room with you this morning, and proud that you are a part of the Morrison County family, and you put a very positive face on this organization for all of us. I sincerely thank you for being you. Thank you. Commissioner Jelinski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Anne Marie, I have to be honest with you. There's many county employees that I do not know. I'm just being upfront about that I don't know. Anytime that and what you did, what you accomplished for me, for this board, for this community, period, for the city of Little Falls, by doing what you did, is absolutely volumes. It It just brings me to a point of, I don't really have the right words for you. But what you did for one person is absolutely volumes and miles for the world of what we do. I can't say it enough. Thank you. That's impressive. Absolutely outstanding. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
very
thank
much.
you, Emery.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. You go on up for a photo, please?
Stand next to us? We'll stand?
We'll put her right up in the front row. Right up there.
Okay,
Outstanding.
thank you.
You are awesome. You are awesome.
Watch you. Okay. All right, deep breath.
Let's see. Okay, maybe, let's see, Anne Marie, if you wanna, there you go. Perfect. All right, oh, you're good. And then I'm just gonna move a little this way, and then, Mr. Winter, there you go, perfect. All right, 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna do one more here just in case. 1, 2, 3. There we go.
Perfect.
One more.
Perfect.
All right, one more round, please. And thanks, Jim.
Thanks to Jim too for,
Congrats.
Thank you.
thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, you know, I thought we had a great start to the morning greeting all those sixth graders at the water festival, but man, isn't that a great follow-up with our employee? Fantastic. Gentlemen, next on the agenda, I look to the consent agenda and I ask if there is any item on the consent agenda any commissioner would like to have pulled for further discussion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wincher, second by Commissioner Lemire to approve the consent agenda. Discussion. Seeing no further discussion, gentlemen, this is a roll call. Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher. Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
And the chairman votes aye. All those voting in the affirmative, the consent agenda is passed. Gentlemen, next on the agenda, we have the Crook Neck Lake lid here.
It is a tongue twister, so good job.
It is, Mr. Sanger, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We just call it the CLID in Seashore. Alrighty, if we can just go down to the first, there's gonna be a slide, there we go. Oops, you went past it. There it is. Last year, when we left off, we had one survey remaining, and this is the one that was remaining. And you'll notice that there's a few yellow dots on it, and that was where the divers came in, and they were looking for zebra mussels. And unfortunately, they found no zebra mussels in the lake. And then, so far, and they also repeated it this year. And so we have no zebra mussels this year on the dive survey. And we've done now, and so in 2018, we had zebra mussels found at the dock, at the boat access, after it was brought out, one pair. And then we've had no zebra mussels found since then. And and that's including the villagers. So maybe we have a lake that they don't like to grow in. Maybe they're in there and we just can't find them. But we're still listed as having zebra mussels in the lake. And then you'll notice off on the, which would be your left side, I believe, or my right side as I'm looking at the slide, you'll see those blue dots on there. That's the
Yes.
area there. We have what they're referring to as a hybrid milfoil. Has to be genetically tested to confirm it. It's not native, it's not Eurasian water milfoil, but it's somewhere in between, but it can be treated. And so when they did the survey this year, it's in the tail that's off to the right. but it's not in those locations, that area right there where you're at. And so we did collect specimens this fall. We won't get the results until March. If the quantity is, and then if we find them next year, we'd be able to treat them. And so it's not something we want to have in the lake. And it's the first time that they found it in this area up here on the surveyors, but it is a hybrid. And so, but this was a leftover from last year that I wasn't able to report because we didn't get the survey results until late September. Okay, so then the next slide takes us into this year. This was the performance plan that we proposed to you that you subsequently approved, and it's survey, treat, and monitor the lake for quality, water quality, and then manage the CLID appropriately following all the regulations. On the water quality studies, we continue to be a mesotrophic state, which would indicate that we're a healthy lake. We have good trending on chlorophyll and on phosphorus and on nitrogen. So everything's trending in a positive range, which is what we want to find. We do find that in the Secchi dish, which is a clarity, it falls off as the year goes on. Could be some algae that's forming during the year. And then at the very end, I'll discuss one issue that we're finding with one watercraft that's impacting the lake. The next slide. This is the surveys we did this year. I'll point out the first one would be those obliques that are towards the bottom. That's the curly leaf that was discovered this year. And in the curly leaf areas, there was 10.6 acres, and we treated it. We were able to treat again with diquat. So using the herbicide diquat, we saved about $17,000 roughly, comparing it to 21 cost. The diquat, we're able to use it. DNR is allowing us to use it through the Little Falls office is where we get our permit. They will allow us to use it. It's a herbicide that's a little bit more dense, and so it sinks, it stays in the area for treatment. Very effective. And then when we did the summer survey, there was no curly leaf found in that area. So it's very effective. And it's inexpensive compared to the normal treatment. We get to use it because we have no walleyes in the lake. If you have walleyes, they don't allow you to use it. And it's also personality driven to some degree of the DNR person permits it. But we're able to treat, and we've been very successful with it. We don't know how long we're going to be able to continue that down the road, but right now we can.
If I may, Mr. Chair, Dan.
Commissioner.
What's the depth that this will reach, this treatment that you have?
In those areas that we're treating there, it's probably in that 10-foot range, 8 to 10 feet, somewhere in there. We're not a very real deep
Right,
lake.
I understand it's not a deep lake.
But you can probably get down to, some of those areas is 15 feet.
Right,
You're probably maxing out
okay.
there. And once you get to 18 feet, most weeds won't grow.
Right.
You know, sunlight won't reach them. You'll notice at the very top, there's one dot there. We have yellow, it's yellow iris. Yellow iris is it's not an invasive unless it gets into the water. A lot of people buy them. They look pretty. They great root structure. The problem is we have high water on the lake. Invades the shoreline. Now it's in the water. And the water's probably not going to go back down for some time, and so now it's in the water. Sooner or later, we may have to take that out. But those are property owners, and it's on their properties. And so as a lid, we can't go onto properties. And so it's something we may work with some property owners to, does the lid pay them to remove them, and then we replace in kind? It's a discussion we're having as a board.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Jelinski.
When you make that statement, I thought I understood you to say it's now in the water.
It's on their shoreline, originally planted.
Yep, understood.
Water's now above the high water level.
Yep,
It's now
it's now in the lake.
in the lake.
And now causing myself as the property owner, which I'm not, but as the example would be saying, wait a second, guys, I planted that. But now the explanation is of what it does to, once it's in the water, I assume. Okay, got it.
And so what we've done this year to work with them is we went in and cut the seed pods, removed all those, so This year, we're not concerned that's gonna spread, but that is our concern, that it would get in the water and then spread more. It spreads by roots and by seed pod.
Sure.
So we're working with those owners on that issue. Oh, this is just a picture that I put in there of what they look like. Nice dense structure, holds the shoreline, does a great job of that. This is our Treasury Report, money-wise. We're fiscally sound. We will be returning some money to the county on the grant because we didn't have any milfoil to treat this year. The milfoil survey that we had, we don't have any milfoil in the lake right now. We identified it in 2018. We treated 19 and 20, the one zone, and we've been extremely successful. There's no Eurasian milfoil found right now. And so we think, working with our surveyor and our treater, we may have eliminated it from the lake. We don't know, could pop up there, it's all around us, but right now, there's out of the lake. And so we're very fortunate on that, and using Dwp, we saved a lot of money. And so we'll be returning the balance on the grant. Next slide. So this is turning to next year, exact same performance plan as last year that our members approved at our meeting, and we'll be asking you to approve by motion. Again, it's survey, treat, monitor, and manage to CLID. Next one should be our proposed budget pay for this. You notice that we added 2 columns this year. We went estimate on the left-hand side, estimated cost and estimated and the proposed budget. We believe we're gonna pay that estimated cost. That's what it's gonna cost us. We think if we can use, for example, Dwp under weed treatment, $4,000. It's an increase. We know chemicals have gone up, and the treater said plan on double the cost. But we may also have to use Aquathol K. We don't know. So we threw the higher number in there. Our members want us to go high on the proposed budget because they don't want us to be short. And then you'll notice that the admin cost, that's a market increase. That's well over 5,000 increase. We put that in there at 6,000 because we have this, it's not an audit, but it's an agreed upon procedures, protocol, perhaps the best term for it, that the state, Secretary of State requires every 5 years. We haven't had to do it since 2005 when we talked to them. So we may have to do it finally. We don't know. And so if we do, it's in the budget. Otherwise, as a board, we're not authorized to spend over $5,000 without previous year approval. And so it's in there. And then legal reserve, we carry that $15,000 in the proposed budget. We don't feel we're gonna have to spend anything next year legal-wise, but we carry it over in the proposed budget. So at our meeting, they approved the proposed budget, recognizing that we anticipate we're gonna spend the estimated cost is what we will spend. And then the next slide should be a levy slide. And then on the levy, we anticipate, we perhaps we do ours a little bit different. I don't know how the other lakes do theirs. We pull in a lot of information from our members that are attending. And we basically make the recommendation that we'd like to carry about 2 times the amount of what our max cost would be on any given year, just so that because of the levy process, we could get through 2 years without having to ramp it way up. We made a recommendation, it's one more line down below that they asked us finally, what would you like, Dan? And I said, I actually wanted to go 20. Some people wanted to go 60. We decided to go 40. And at their recommendation, and so as a board, we recommended 40. They don't want to have a yo-yo. They want to just stay steady Eddie, and they said 60. It's not going to hurt anybody. But we have a concern as a board. We want to stay below that $100,000 balance. It just sounds good, stay below it. And so that's our goal, is to try to bring that down a little bit. And so with the input, we just, okay, we'll go 40. But we are financially sound as an organization, and we recognize that. So I do have one more slide coming up at the end, but prior to that, I do need to have, one of the requirements last year is that by motion, I have to request that you guys would approve our performance plan, our performance budget, and our levy.
And are you requesting that those be acted on individually, or could they be acted
I
on?
think you can do them
Mr.
as a
Chair?
group.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Lemire.
I'll make a motion to approve their performance plan, budget, and levy for 2023.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Lemire and a second by Commissioner Wilson. Discussion.
I just want to say a great slide presentation that you give us. You give us a lot of information that helps clear everything up for us, so we really don't have any questions. Just good job, and they went from a 60 levy to a 40 levy this year. They got a good budget balance, so looks really good.
And Commissioner Lemire, I look at this, it's also very great, Danny sharing with us the interaction that the board has with the residents around there and addressing issues, the yellow iris issue and that. The lid board there is takes an active role in working with their members and the residents around there. And when I look at the maps that you've shared with us this morning and how you guys have been able to not just effectively control these invasive species on there, but do it in such a cost-effective manner, it's very gratifying. And how often do we get the opportunity for a lid board to return some grant money that maybe can be used by some of our other lakes that maybe have greater challenges out there too. So really appreciate your report this morning. Commissioner Wincher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to congratulate yourself, Dan, and John Monahan for being reelected to the board. You guys are doing.
Oh, that's something I wasn't seeking. May I just, can we go back to that very last slide? I just want to point one thing out. This is going to be a major issue down 2 pictures. This is going to be a potential, I don't want to call it a nightmare, but it's going to be a major issue for the lake. You may have heard of some of this already. This is St. Anthony Falls is doing major study on these boats. They're also, Lake Minnetonka has passed, I won't call it legislation, but they have a major group down there that have power. These boats, we have a couple on our lake. When they come through, a secchi dish is something you can read how far down the lake you can see. I can normally see 12 feet quite frequently. When these boats come through, I see 2 feet. They stir it up so much. So the Lake Anthony Falls study that's being done now, and what these do is they surf right behind them. So you can it fills up with water, and then they stand up like this, and they go along, and they make a great big wave behind them. And we're a very small lake, and we're not very deep. And the thrust can go down 20 feet. And so when it does that, it just stirs up the bottom, and it tears up all the weeds. And so the question now that's being addressed, that was shown last year's study by St. Anthony Falls Labs, was that it takes over twice the distance for these waves to dissipate compared to a normal wave. So if you go back a few years ago when we had the high water, 300 feet was a sheriff limit for wakes. Now, if it takes twice, that would be 600 feet. We don't have 600 feet on our lake.
Exactly.
There's no room. You hit everybody. Minnetonka passed 300 feet beginning ice out next spring from shore, no wake. And, but they got a lot of room. These boats, the waves that they make, they can crash right up over on your shore because they're 2.5, 3 feet high, and they can knock a kayak over. And we have a lot of kayaks and boats and so forth. This is going to become an issue, I know, for our lake, because on a weekend when they're out there, my phone just buzzes. And so I just bring it to your attention because what impacts me one year, I know it's going to impact you the following year, because it always seems to come to you shortly thereafter. And I don't know if you've heard much about these, but these boats are going to devastate the lakes, the small lakes. And I've heard about it on Chamino too. You know, they have a couple there, and so.
Do you know
I
when
think-
the St. Anthony study will be completed?
They're doing a secondary study now. Last year, they did the one that was propulsion to wave thrust going out. This one they're doing this year is looking at downward thrust. I don't know what the impact of that will be. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if the legislation and/or DNR will come out and say something like, it'll be up to the lids, who know their lakes the best,
You know? Interesting.
and punt,
And punt?
and say, give it to us to decide.
So
Exactly.
then
And
what
then we will have to
happens-
come to you,
Then what happens is the owner of a boat like this,
and they're expensive.
which is me and Randy,
Oh, okay.
just for the example, again,
Because it'd take both of them.
because it take both of them, of course,
Yeah,
you would now say to, the lid would now say to us as property owners,
yeah,
bye-bye.
that's right. That's, and these properties are nice properties on the lake. And I think it's kind of a slippery slope, you know, of how we do this.
Oh, sure.
Because I can tell you, as a kid, I loved going to the ocean. I grew up in the East Coast, and I loved riding waves. And so I can see, these are fun.
Well,
If I was a kid, I'd love this.
Challenge, Mr. Chair, for you too. They might say, okay, we just won't go as fast and we'll putt around with the, you know, you're gonna have some,
Yeah, they don't go fast, that's just it, they go super slow.
oh, really?
Oh, the slower they go, because they fill with bilge. And so the slower they go, the bigger the wave.
And they actually suck the water into the
Oh,
boat.
yeah.
They look like a tugboat. And so they can fill with waves, and then they can just push, and they're super powerful. That's why they're high thrust. And they push that water, and it just creates a great big wave behind them, a wake. But then it disperses the water out. And, you know, if I was 18, I would want my dad to buy one of those. I tell you right now, absolutely. But it's causing a lot of damage on the lake at the same time, in my position now. And so, and I know these people, they're friends of mine, and so it's gonna be, puts me in a delicate position. So when you say thanks for being on the board, I really did not want to be reelected to this, because this is, you know, I've had other issues with, well, you know, the other issue, but, this is gonna be,
This will be an issue.
it's gonna be an issue. And then I don't know if it'll come to your level, or, I don't know the answer for this one. Minnetonka, you know, they have 13, they can come together.
You know, I think, you know, I look at this from what you've shared with us, and we go back to looking at the role that we play on the county board, and our responsibility to help, you know, protect the resources within our county. And so I think I'm kind of thinking maybe down the line of I think where Commissioner Lemire is going. You know, we're going to be, this board will be, we're grateful for what you've shared with us and getting us on the, kind of on the lead edge of what could be coming our way, but we'll be looking for the research information that gives us, you know, that gives us facts and to take into consideration if we're asked to make a decision on this. And I think, but I just knowing from you firsthand that these things do exist, and they do exist on Crookneck Lake, and it does have an effect on Crookneck Lake. And we may be, you know, reaching out to you and the lids from some of the other lakes here in the county too, to have a discussion about this in the future, you know, and Commissioner Jelinski will probably be chair then and could be leading that discussion.
Won't that be fun?
Yeah, very enticing. Danny, if you'll just hold on. Gentlemen, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Gentlemen, this is a roll call. Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher. And the chairman votes aye. All those voting in the affirmative, Motion prevails. Danny, thank you for your time this morning.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Gentlemen, next on the agenda, we have the Lake Alexander lid with us this morning. Gentlemen, if you'll come forward to the table.
Force him to go with you.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Got support with me this year.
And gentlemen, if you would you please state your names for the tape, if you would, please?
Mike Faust.
And Ron Weber, we're both on the Lake Alexander Lake Improvement District Board, and I'm the treasurer. And I believe you have our, excuse me, our treasurer's report in front of you. We have cash on hand of about $226,500. Our projected budget, right below it, we have 485 littoral property owners. We're looking to ask for an assessment of $50 this year. We had been previously at well over 100, even 200 at one time. Last few years, we've been dropping it by $25 per property owner, and we would be at $50 asking this year, which Mike was at our annual meeting in August, and the group that was there approved the $50 assessment, as did the board previous to that. So that would only bring us in $24,000. We are spending way more than what we are taking in. We are working down our reserves currently. And there was some discussion that we might be working a little bit too seriously towards that end. And as treasurer, I was hoping that we had the weeds more well managed than we currently do, as evidenced by our last survey. We've had a lot more, I don't know, Mike, if you've been on the lake or some others, we've got a lot of weeds coming back all of a sudden. And it's even become somewhat of a navigation problem. Unfortunately, the DNR will not allow us to treat weeds that are right in the middle of the lake. We have some areas that are a little shallower, and that's where it's growing. So, all in all, our budget is $10,000. Just hit the top items: $10,000 for bogs, and what do we got there? A significant amount for weeds. I guess I don't have it broken down as a subtotal. We have Eurasian water milfoil. This spring, in early June, we only had to treat 41 acres. Last year, in October, we treated 26 acres for curly leaf pondweed. And right now, we're looking at probably closer to 50 right now that got approved. And I'm thinking by next year, it's going to be even higher because of the rate that are starting to grow again. So that's kind of an unfortunate situation. We are not allowed to use dicot because we do have walleyes. And by the way, if anybody's fishing, now it's time to get out there. We've got projected expenses of $48,000. Remember, I mentioned we had $24,000 coming in from our assessment at $50. Excuse me. If we were to assess according to what our costs are, we would be looking at 115. Instead, we're looking at 50. I don't know that I'm going to be coming back here next year, or Mike Faust, and asking for 50. It probably is going to be back up again. So that's where we're at right now. 60% of their costs are covered by reserves, and only 40% by levy. So, it was good to have Crookneck go before me and give all those details. Mike, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Only that the weeds have probably been the worst I've seen in 20 years. Maybe not the worst, the top 3 years in 20 years. That really started to accrue.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Lemire.
can you tell the board how clear your lake is? Because that's probably part of the problem, right?
Yes.
'Cause I remember the
correct,
gentleman that
Mike.
spoke there was like
Mike, yeah.
unbelievably clear.
Yeah, because of the clarity, which might be in part due to the zebra mussels that we have, that, Crookneck did not have, but the clarity is very good. Unfortunately, that works as a two-edged sword. It allows for the growth of more weeds with the more sunlight getting down with the clarity. So that could be part of the issue. And Mike, you were at our meeting, as I mentioned, and we are looking towards some kind of, additionally beyond our budget, some type of legislative action on VRBOs. And there's more and more of that. We need to be, I can't think of the correct word, but just monitoring at least, between VRBOs and these wake boats, which are also a concern for us at certain points in the lake where the channel gets a little narrower, so.
One more question for Ron. Do you need a motion for your performance plan, budget, and levy as Crookneck did too? Is that
Yes,
like that
same,
motion?
right. And we're asking for $50.
Commissioner Wincher, you had a comment?
Yeah, again, with the zebra mussels, now again, I thought there was some rumblings here the last couple of years, they did find something, or they're doing experiments on how to treat zebra mussels, and have you, thank you, Mr. Chair. Have you heard anything that is ongoing yet at all, or not?
I haven't heard of any
Okay.
method to treat them.
I know the U of M is, I believe you're referring to their study.
Yes, yep.
And nothing's really come yet, so we'll see. By the time that maybe something comes out, we'll probably be on the decline anyway, because they reproduce at such a rapid rate that they actually kill themselves off after a while. Won't be totally gone, but they're out there, and I can, as
They're quite thick.
yeah.
And
Mr.
then-
Chair, go ahead.
And then my last question is, when you talk, there's weeds in the center of the lake, how deep is waters in the center of the lake?
Well, I shouldn't, maybe I misspoke when I said center, but there's areas where they're in the lake where it becomes shallower, sandbars and whatnot.
Okay.
And when we get to that depth, anywhere between 3 and maybe 15 or
Okay.
less, 12 feet, they're starting to grow.
Okay, that
And so I can be out, well, even 1,000 feet, and I'll run into a patch of weeds. So, in addition to watching for boats, you're watching for weed patches.
Commissioner Lemire. Commissioner Wilson.
Do you have a lot of problems with bogs? Are they-
No, we haven't. We did a few years ago, we had a huge issue. We had
Yep.
a football field-sized
Right,
bog.
I remember that one.
cost us close to $80,000. Water levels are fluctuating. Right now, they're back down again. I would say, in my opinion, back where they were in the spring. They kind of rose over the summer, but they're, with the weather we've been having lately, it seems that they're dropping again.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve Lake Alexander's performance plan, budget, and levy for 2023.
We have a motion by Commissioner Lemire and a second by Commissioner Wincher. Discussion?
I just want to say that they have a great turnout that comes to their annual meeting, and it was all positive, and they have a great board, a very knowledgeable board on a multitude of areas.
Great. Further discussion? Ron, I wanted to ask, you made the comment about the DNR not allowing you to treat some of those areas when you get out farther into the lake, more offshore
Right.
weed issues. Just curious what your strategy is for trying to gain some control on that if you're not able to treat.
Well, we're really, we can't do anything unless we do have DNR approval, so our hands are pretty much tied on that.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Chonsky?
I also don't get it. If the purpose of the lid is to keep it home and keep an eye on what's going on, obviously have a budget and so on and so forth,
right.
for the purpose of maintaining that lake, I get it. And then the DNR says, whoops, we can't. And I also get rules and regulations, I understand that, but what would it take to, if you're 1,000 feet out
Yeah.
in your boat, and obviously, and you just said it, watching for boats, skiers, whatever it might be, and boom, here's this 100 by 100, 200 by 200, whatever, bed of weeds, obviously, there's an issue there. Special legislation?
I'm not in a position to advise you on that. I know that the DNR's position is that it doesn't affect navigation to the individual property owner. So they're saying, hey, if it's growing, let it be type of situation. But it is becoming a nuisance.
So when you say nuisance too, is this a native species or is this?
No, this is
literally-
invasive,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, we also have, Crookneck was mentioned, those hybrid weeds, which is a cross between the native and the invasive. We got those, so that's a whole other issue with the DNR, so I'm sure you heard a lot about them.
Well, every time we have our lid board representation in here, we learn something. We learn some things and some issues probably coming our way, the board's way here, from both our friends at Crookneck and also both from you, Ron, and Mike this morning, too. We have a motion and a second on the table. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? So, seeing none, gentlemen, this is a roll call. Commissioner Lemire?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher?
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski?
Aye.
And the chairman votes aye. All those voting in the affirmative, motion carries. Ron, Mike, thank you for your time.
Mr. Chair, can I just?
Yes,
I'm
Commissioner
just gonna
Lemire, of
throw a
course.
reminder out there for that, our Morrison County AIS grant. Don't forget to apply for that. You can get it for herbicides if you have a survey, so don't lose out on some of that.
Yeah, I noticed they had about 9,000 or something that they have gotten, so,
Yeah. I don't know if we received one from Alec at all last time.
I don't know that we even, none of us are paid to do anything.
Yeah.
And so, that's kind of a little bit of an irritation too, is that we have to apply for stuff, we need it.
Yeah.
The application process could be streamlined, in my opinion, a whole lot, so that somebody that, we can't, none of us, even though we're retired, want to spend a lot of time pushing paperwork for
No, I understand.
a nickel.
Absolutely.
So,
Well, that's point taken. We as a board then will also look at, is there ways that we can streamline that process, make this more effective? Because as Commissioner Lemire says, that those AIS grants have been very effective in helping these lake improvement districts with controlling some of these invasive species out there
Right.
too, so.
yeah, ideal situation is that the property owners didn't have to pick up the full buck. We know that people are using those public access on a regular basis, and that's where all of our weed problems started, right at every public access.
Yep.
Okay, thanks,
Thank
Mike,
you.
and everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Gentleman next on the agenda, Shannon is here to talk to us about the Soil and Water Office.
Morning, Shannon.
Good morning again, Shannon.
Morning again, Shannon.
Morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Chair, I'll be real brief because I know that last planning session, you guys spent a lot of time discussing this and hearing from Amy Kwalczyk and Chris Pence with Board of Water and Soil Resources. And I hear that Lance even bounced in later to try and give an additional piece, which he felt terrible about, by the way.
We didn't embarrass him too bad.
He told me he got razzed hard. So this is really what I'm here today to ask. I'm hoping that you feel comfortable with the draft plan and hearing that summary last week. It's been a really smooth process. I don't have any concerns with what is entailed in the plan, especially when it comes to Morrison County. So what I'm here today to ask is that you would support sending the draft plan to the Board of Water and Soil Resources. The policy committee did ask for us to bring this back to our local boards so that they had confidence in sending it down the road. So this is kind of an extra step that we took over the RUM, whereas with that I came to you and asked you to approve the plan, okay? So this time I'm asking you to approve the draft, and then if it goes to Bowser, I'll come back and we'll adopt the actual final plan. So,
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Lemire.
I'll make a motion to approve the Long Prairie River One Watershed One Plan draft document and send it to Bowser with our approval.
Thank you, Commissioner Lemire. We have a second by Commissioner Jelinski. Discussion.
Mr. Chair, if it would be okay.
Commissioner Wincher.
For Shannon to read the resolution?
yes. So whereas the Board of Commissioners has reviewed the draft Long Prairie River One Watershed One Plan, whereas the Board of Commissioners finds the document to meet the needs and the requirements of the local water plan priorities, therefore be it resolved that the Morrison County Commissioners recommends to the Long Prairie River Watershed Policy Committee that the plan be submitted to the Board of Water and Soil Resources for their approval as stated in the Bowser Operational Procedures 2.0 and the Long Prairie One Watershed One Plan Memorandum of Agreement.
Further discussion?
I just want to say Shannon was integral in producing this plan, and she was the brains behind the whole thing. No, but with the assistance with Bowser and everybody, it was great. Amy, our Amy Kwalczyk, and all the other soil and water districts and all the other counties, and
Commissioner Lemire, you had also had some hands.
Thank you, Commissioner Wincher, for recognizing
they're
Commissioner.
a lot smarter than I am on this stuff, and I appreciate their knowledge and their support.
Further discussion? Further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion prevails. Shannon, have a great day.
Thank you, Shannon.
See you guys tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Potentially, yeah.
Gentlemen, next on the agenda, Sheriff's Report.
Morning, Sheriff.
Good morning, Sheriff Larson.
Morning, Sheriff. Good morning, Casey.
Morning, Casey.
So I probably don't have to do the intro, so everyone knows Casey, but today I kind of want to emphasize just a little bit about drugs, what's going on in Morrison County, just to update the board. I know it's been a while, and as you're aware, Casey King's assigned to the Violent Offender Task Force. So for the sake of time, I think I'll just kind of jump right into that versus going over the entire report. But yeah, I thought it was important that we bring Casey forward. We kind of just, like I mentioned, just kind of talk about what we're seeing here locally. I know in the month of August, school's back in session. So the schools have been busy contacting Casey, and Casey's been giving an update not only to the students, but as well as the faculty members, as far as what we're seeing as well. So we're busy doing the education portion. We continue with Coffee with a Cop. We got one scheduled, I think, October 6th at the Little Falls Senior Center. And we're aware that we can only control so much, but we're trying to not only do the education, we're busy with the enforcement efforts, but kind of give community members an idea of what we're seeing. And we have a display bag, we're talking about that today. And some of you board members may have saw it, but it's like 30-plus drugs that we bring in front of community members when we have these events for education purposes. And we put it on display. It's heroin, cocaine, it's methamphetamine, and then it's some of the paraphernalia that you may see, not only in the streets, but what we're seeing across jurisdiction lines. And it kind of brings it to light, what we're dealing with. And some people, when we show them this, they're like, holy cow, this was going on, and I had no idea what this was. You know, maybe they were being lied to. So it's good that we continue the education. And then Casey's going to talk a little bit about how we've been busy, not only in Morrison County, but across jurisdiction lines, and how that still pertains to Morrison County. And then it's no secret that the majority of our drug cases are still here locally in Little Falls. Little Falls Police Department did put on a full-time investigator, and they've been assisting with some of the investigations. We've had a rash, I guess, of overdoses where, you know, normally we would be the primary behind that, but Little Falls PD has collaborated with us, and their investigators have taken over the overdose investigations, which has helped immensely. But as far as the drug investigations, they're still primarily handled by us. And what I mean by that is running informants and doing the surveillance and typing the warrants to execute search warrants, things of that nature. So with that, this is the man that can probably give a good summary of what he's seeing, and hopefully we give you an update and answer any questions that you may have. Casey?
Very good. Good morning, Casey.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'll first of all open it up. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer any questions that you may have to begin with.
Gentlemen,
Let's start.
we're all ears this morning. We're like a cornfield, so.
All right. Well, just kind of what's going on with the task force. We've, of course, there's 14 of us total. That's including the commander, 2 team leaders. We're separated into a north and a south team. We're comprised of Morrison County, Benton County, Stearns County, Sherburne County, and City of St. Cloud, and Wake Park. So each individual investigator, we begin our own investigation wherever it may be in that jurisdiction. So not only the investigations that we do in Morrison County and Little Falls, we also tend to get pulled by other team members to the other locations to help investigations. That could involve anything from garbage pulls, going through garbage, up to setting surveillance, and up to executing search warrants. We've had some local, over the last couple months, our investigations have actually taken us down to Minneapolis, because as you know, the drugs that we have here in Morrison County tend to come from St. Cloud, Minneapolis, and other areas, larger jurisdictions. So we oftentimes get pulled to assist in those investigations to help prevent a lot of those drugs making their way up here. So currently, VOTIF is conducting a federal investigation. It's led to a suspect down in Mexico, which has been apprehended. That investigation is still ongoing to find co-conspirators and bring them to justice. That's taken a lot of, not specifically us here in Morrison, our investigators, but a couple of the guys down in St. Cloud. They've spent a lot of time on that, and that actually takes them to Fargo, where the investigation had continued and is ultimately going to conclude there. But the main thing we've been seeing here lately is methamphetamine. It's kind of our quote unquote go-to buy drugs and begin investigations. We've done a few search warrants here in Little Falls over the last couple of months. Like the sheriff said, Little Falls, Chief Shermer's put on a second full-time investigator to try to assist in their general investigations as well as the drugs that are being done here in town. Most of those will begin with Investigator Pashelke or I. We'll get a tip or something and we'll follow up on that tip, which what we like to do is conclude it with a search warrant so we can find drugs, cash, guns, or whatever, information that can lead us to the next level higher of an investigation. So we've written warrants and we'll ask Little Falls PD for their assistance to act as a uniform presence at the door so the suspects inside the residence will know that it's the police and not a bunch of long-haired tattooed guys busting down their doors. We also have the marked squad car, usually with the lights on to indicate a presence as well. So the PD has actually been in the stack with us and offered those uniform presence. So yeah, we did a talk down in Swanville to the school staff prior to school beginning. I believe that was about 30 staff members. And we brought the drug kit to lay out so the teachers and staff members could see what the actual product is and try to explain to them a little bit of signs to look for, some intoxication or signs of drugs. We've recently, as of this morning, we're updating that packet or the drug kit, kind of repackaging it, making it clear to see, adding some new things that we're seeing, such as the new Perk 30 pills. That's the fentanyl pills that we're seeing a lot of, as well as other paraphernalia that shows use of fentanyl.
You want to talk a little bit about Operation Safe Streets?
Operation Safe Streets has been was an excellent operation conducted by St. Cloud, where they spent, well, it was supposed to be not made to public as far as how long the operation was going to take, but it was about 2-week project or operation to where St. Cloud wanted to focus their efforts on key locations in the city where they've had multiple shootings, stabbings, a lot of gang activity. So they resourced other jurisdictions. We had Benton County offered up several deputies. Stearns County offered up several deputies. Morrison had at least, I think, 3 deputies at different times that went down to assist, and basically just do a saturation of law enforcement presence and looking for, any reason to make any kind of illegal contact with the public in order to identify them, look for signs and indications of criminal activity, and hoping to locate drugs and criminal activity. I think it was a real success. I know that about probably 5 or 6 days into it, a lot of the local known problem people out on the streets, when law enforcement was making contact with them, they indicated that the presence had been, they'd done very good. They said a lot of the guys aren't carrying their guns around. A lot of that stuff has been quelled, and it was a good operation. In fact, over the weekend, I think they had 6 shootings down there, so they're gonna do another operation tomorrow to try to kind of find out who some of the suspects are and get rid of some of those guns.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Casey, I've known you for a long time. I know that you are absolutely committed to what you're doing, and I'm very well aware that not only here in the city of Little Falls, but all of Morrison County and all around us, we've got meth, we've got heroin, we've got fentanyl. I hear it every couple of weeks when the sheriff comes here. I mean, it's here, we know that. I just want to compliment both you and the sheriff. You went to Swanville, Minnesota. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in rural Minnesota. This kind of stuff doesn't happen in Swanville. You sat there with 30 instructors at the Swanville school. This stuff doesn't happen here. Fact of life is that it's because of you, because of the sheriff, because of the sheriff's office, because of people that are committed to this, that we're able to actually educate people as to what it is, what it does, that it is here, that it's all over. I think that's a big piece to the puzzle, is that it's not just in St. Cloud. It's not just in Minneapolis, St. Paul, in Flensburg, in Harding, in Swanville, in Little Falls. It's all over. And it truly is, and I wholeheartedly believe this. It's through people that are committed to the project, to the event, to what we're talking about, that if we're ever going to get a hold of any of this, it's because of people like you. So Casey, I just want to just say thank you very kindly, because it truly is. It takes commitment to do this, because it's not fun all the time, and I get that. I do so. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Jelinski. Gentlemen, further comments?
I would just have to agree with what Jeff said. We know there's drugs all over. We all deal with it, and we thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
If I may, Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Wincher?
Casey, when you bring up these gangs, are they from out of the cities? Are they coming up here? Or are they starting to stay in this area and recruiting from individuals in St. Cloud? Do you have something that you'd give us for that?
I can't really, that's not really my specialty as far as the gangs. From what I do know is majority of them, they stem out of St. Cloud. I know that we here in Morrison County, as far as my personal knowledge, I don't think that we have such an issue with gang activity. A lot of the gang activity from St. Cloud, they come from Minneapolis, Chicago. They made their way to St. Cloud, and then, you know, it's turf warfare, drug warfare. I think this thing over the weekend involved an argument between a boyfriend and a girlfriend. I mean, it's nonsense, it's senseless, and hopefully we can keep that out of the county.
Well, I say, and I appreciate what the whole law enforcement does. It's just unbelievable. But that word doesn't even get out there, that we had 6 shootings or something here just down the block. You know, you can say St. Cloud, it's like, it's in our backyard darn near, you know. So.
And I want to just echo what Casey was saying about the operation that we conducted in St. Cloud. I heard from multiple officers, including himself, that the impact is, yeah, we're spending some time in St. Cloud, which is helping them, but we're running into some of our players here from Morrison County as well. So it does cross jurisdiction lines, and at the end of the day, we're truly helping Morrison County too for being there, so.
If I can make one more point, just as far as, you know, the stuff that we see here in our county, I just want to stress that it does come from, you know, St. Cloud, Minneapolis. One of my subjects of a local investigation was just picked up in Hennepin County. She was down picking up a large quantity of methamphetamine destined for Morrison County. That individual's been already arrested twice for sales charges. So it's, you know, it's continuous. It's coming here, and whatever we can do, you know, in our area, we do, but then we sometimes have to head it off. You know, we have to be pulled out of the county for a little bit to go head it off, you know, further south, so.
And again, I appreciate what you guys do. I believe the whole county of Morrison, they appreciate what you guys do. It's just unbelievable. So again, thank you for all your service for the beyond the law enforcement.
Casey, before I go to Commissioner Lemire for a question, I want to ask, you just made a point here about an individual that you guys have kind of had your finger on and was just arrested. But you had mentioned that this person has a history and had been arrested twice before, and then for whatever reason has been back out on the street, and then was able to engage and acquire a large amount of drugs out there, and then get arrested again. You know, is there any hope on the horizon out there about being able to somehow incarcerate these individuals to somehow help stem this traffic out there? Your thoughts on that?
That's a question and thoughts over my pay grade, I believe. I think we all have our own opinions on your question. I would refer that probably back to the sheriff, but a lot of that would depend on the jurisdiction that's being prosecuted in. And I can't really talk to that, I don't think. I apologize.
No, and I may be asking you a question that probably bounces more into the judicial, but I would say that from an outsider looking in, you have to be experiencing some level of frustration about running across the same individuals doing the same illegal activity, and then you guys go through and do all the work, and you go through all the process afforded to you by the law, and then this person's back out there, you know, in the open again. So I did not mean to put you in an uncomfortable spot, and I probably asked you, knowingly asked you a question that you probably couldn't answer. Commissioner Lemire.
Just a quick question. The methamphetamines that comes to Morrison County, does that originate in Mexico for the most
A
part?
majority of it, yes. We don't really see the mom and pop labs any longer because of the pseudoephedrine laws that the FDA had implemented. Now and again, every now and again, we'll see a little, they call them one-shake methods. It's out there, people are still able to do it, but most of the majority of the meth is coming from Mexico.
And then you also mentioned that there's also fentanyl pills
Yes.
within Morrison County?
Yes.
Are them originated in Mexico also?
I believe they originate from like China or Mexico, but they make their way to the United States via mail or border crossings.
So no, I've heard of cutting fentanyl and heroin because it's more economical or what have you, but do people take fentanyl pills then? Or what are them used for?
Typically, they'll ingest it via just taking it like a pill, or there's a method used to ingest it by inhaling a vapor from it. Most of the majority, the quote-unquote heroin that we're supposed to be buying is no longer heroin, though. Once we send it to the BCA lab for analysis, majority of it's coming back straight fentanyl, and that's going to be a legislative thing that they're going to need to change as far as amounts that we buy. When we buy fentanyl, or whenever we go to buy heroin, there's a threshold to get them to like a first-degree sales. So whenever we go to do an investigation and we think we're buying heroin to try to get to this threshold, we're actually buying fentanyl, which the threshold is 100 times more than the threshold of heroin. So that's going to need to be looked at in the legislature and hopefully changed.
And fentanyl Mr. Chair, is fentanyl the main reason for overdoses?
I believe so. Yeah. People reach their threshold of heroin and then they don't know they're doing fentanyl and they get some fentanyl, and that's whenever they OD.
Thank you, Casey, and thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, for the comments. Casey's very informative for us, and once again, this is a tremendous education for us as board members. We're very appreciative of your time. Sheriff, anything else for us? I say thank you on behalf of the board. Your report sent to us beforehand. Obviously, we had the opportunity to review that too.
Yeah, the only thing, your question to Casey, maybe I'll just kind of shed a little light on it. It is frustrating, Mr. Chair, and at the end of the day, I think we're doing a better job breaking down our silos and coming together as a group. We just had a meeting not too long ago at the Little Falls City Council chambers, and County attorney was there, social service, probation, myself, Chief Shermers and others, and we sat around the table kind of talking about what was just brought up. And anyway, the plan is to continue those discussions and to continue to meet and at least invite everybody to the table. We can't force everybody because there are answers that we need as well. And I think if we break down our silos and work together, hopefully we can make that happen. So I just wanted to throw that out there that we did have a productive meeting and there's going to be future meetings scheduled.
Very good. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Casey.
Both very much.
Gentlemen, why don't we take about 5-6 minutes here, break, and then we'll resume.
Why wouldn't we?
Stretch.
We'll resume. Gentleman, Brad has staff here with him with our Health and Human Services report. Good morning,
Mr.
Brad.
Chair. Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners.
Good morning.
So this morning, we actually have a kind of a interrelated discussion around our food support program, but also we have two guests here from rural Minnesota SEP who work with our financial assistance program. So I'm going to ask those from SEP to introduce themselves.
Hello. My name's Sam Freilich, and I'm the team leader of the Little Falls SEP office.
I'm Brian Gopinski with Rural Minnesota SEP. I have been team leader here in Little Falls and program manager, so I work with Little Falls, Wadena, Brainerd, and Bemidji offices.
Where are you out of now, Brian?
I am now out of Brainerd.
Okay, okay, very good. Thank you.
So Karen's going to talk a little bit about our food support program, and then I'm going to turn it over to Sam and Brian to talk a little bit about their work in rural Minnesota SEP.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Karen.
Okay. SNAP, Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program. As of September 1st, the gross income limits have gone up from 165% to 200% of the federal poverty guideline. It's a substantial increase, and applications have picked up. So again, you can see the income limits, household of 1, 2, 3. How much does a household receive in SNAP benefits? Maximum amounts. Household of 1, 250. Household of 2, 459. And it continues. Expedited SNAP applications for the period of August 1st of 2020 to August 1st of 2022. Expedited applications are if a household has less than $150 in income and assets. Now that's after paying their expenses, so you would allow the rent, the heat, their utilities. If they have $150 less in income and assets, application has to be processed within 24 hours. So you can see how the applications do fluctuate. In August of 22, we had 18 applications for the entire month. In January of 2022, we had 38. So they do fluctuate. Some months we get hit real hard. Application activities, August 1st of 21 to August 31st of 22. We've got ADA programs, which means the client's on some type of program and they're adding SNAP. Their new applications are brand new, not known to the agency. Reapplications are they've been closed and they're reapplying. So in August of 22, the ADA progs were 34, new applications were 14, and ADA reapplications were 79. And then just some comparison. 7/1 of 21 to 7/31 of 21 shows you the cases through the state of Minnesota and Morrison County, the persons, payment amounts, average payment per case, and then 7/1 of 22 to 7/31 of 22 shows you those amounts. So in Morrison County, our cases have gone up a little, not a lot.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Winter.
Question I have, again, on this one photo here you have, or example, you have payments of $430,000 roughly for Morrison County. You see that?
Okay, yes.
Yeah. How much is that taxpayers' money? Again, we all understand it's taxpayers' money, but does it all come from the county? Does it all come from state, federal?
Federal benefit.
So it's all, so every dollar you see there is all federal benefit?
Correct, yep.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Chair, if I may, as long as Commissioner Winter did his interruption, I'll do mine right now too, then I won't miss my place. When you skipped over a couple slides ago for month to month to month to month to month, does that mean if I'm on SNAP, receiving SNAP benefits, then am I applying for that once a month?
No, no.
How does that?
If you're on SNAP and you continue to stay on, we do a yearly review.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, That's all I got. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, regional active SNAP cases gives you Morrison County, Benton, Crow Wing, Mille Lacs, Todd, and Wadena. As you can see, our caseload's gone up, but not a lot. And then just some material. Who SNAP reaches. And then on the last page, every dollar spent on SNAP generates $1.70 in economic activity. And then also just a few items that cannot be bought with SNAP. Any questions?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Jelinski?
Karen, if I was on SNAP, the program, I'm assuming, I'm given a credit card type of a thing?
Yes.
I'm given something. So when I walk into the liquor store to buy a case of beer with my SNAP card, if you will, they know it doesn't work, or once I put it in, it's not gonna work, or how?
It's not going to work.
Okay, that's the process. It just simply.
It's the
doesn't-
item, yep.
They know.
They
I mean,
know.
The card
It
knows.
actually rejects it.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Gentlemen? Further comments, questions for Karen? Karen, you oversee, especially the fiscal part of the SNAP program, but we also have staff, right, through Health and Human Services that help administer that program out there? Yes.
Yep, our eligibility team, both under Karen and under Cindy, determines SNAP eligibility for folks who are looking for food. And so, as I said, some of them are in financial assistance, and so because of that, they are referred to rural Minnesota SEP, and they will work with them on getting a job in a field that they might be interested in. So I'll just have Brian and Sam talk about what SEP does for our recipients as well as the community.
Sure. Yes, so rural Minnesota SEP is located at the Career Force Center in Little Falls. So we run the employer services portion for MFIP and DWP, so Minnesota Family Investment Program and Diversionary Work Program. We did put some reports together, but essentially kind of large overscale picture is we're gonna do career focus planning classes, budgeting, soft skills. We're gonna host job fairs and invite our clients to attend those things. We're gonna help with resume writing, cover letter assistance, mock interviews, job leads, making that regular weekly check-in where the MFIT participant has to actively search for work and show what progress they're making towards finding employment that fits their needs. So that's kind of a large scale picture of what we do. But looking into, anything to add on that?
Nope, not yet.
Okay. Looking into some numbers that we put together for you, I just wanted to give you guys a quick look at what our current MFIP caseload looks like. Actively 65 clients at this point of time made up the caseload. I will say that compared to years past, this is a much harder to serve caseload than we've seen. A lot more FSS, people that are on family stabilization services, just more demanding in general. We are seeing a lot more mental health issues. Chemical dependency is a huge one, and an alarming amount of domestic violence cases. 7, actually, to be exact, we have currently on our caseload. So
Mr.
definitely
Chair.
more challenges.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Sam, excuse me.
Yep.
I'm thinking that this is just a play on words. And the words that you used were "we're going to." I mean, I'm thinking that you mean that you're doing that currently right now when you're having the mock interviews and all
Yes,
all that.
active right now.
That's happening today.
Absolutely.
That's all I needed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. So this kind of gives you a little breakdown showing what our current active caseload is doing. You will see that even though we do have a large number on FSS, meaning they don't necessarily have to participate in all of the requirements, we still do have some that are working and in college, which is huge success. We do have a very large amount for the caseload in college, pursuing degrees in psychology, nursing, human services, accounting. We have 19 actively working, and we have a large chunk job seeking as well. So Wanted to share that we did have one very successful work training client on. She just actually went out for having a baby, but she's employed once returning from maternity leave. So that was a really good success. That's where we actually, as an agency, will put a client on a work site, and we are the employer of record and help them gain those skills before that company would actually take them on. So that was a great one. We are also looking really well in our wage at placement. We're exceeding requirements. So to meet requirements, it's $11.13 an hour when we close someone off of MFIP, and our wage at placement currently is at $13.95 for on average. We are looking at the next page here, where we talk about TANF work participation rate. What I did want to mention on that is this is I guess, completed of different non-core and core activities make up a TANF work participation rate. So non-core activities would not count. So if you see some numbers where we're going down, I would say that it is reflecting the amount of students we have in college to some extent. Once someone is in college for 12 months, it no longer counts as a core activity. And a lot of our clients are going into 2- and 4-year programs. So that's no longer included on our participation rate. Job seeking as well is something that's a core activity, which is why we will have times that are higher. Someone can count 12 weeks of job search as a core activity before it falls off. So that kind of has an impact on that participation rate. Also, the other impacts that we are seeing, we still hear a lot of the daycare issue. So not of lacking a way to pay for the childcare, because we know that that's an option through childcare assistance, but it's actual lack of daycare openings. Maybe they have infants or more than one child. And we still are seeing some COVID impacts coming off of readjusting into the workforce as well.
Just one comment I would make, and when she talks about the or the participation rate, we've talked about that a number of times, and one of the things that we do a little differently is that we do allow folks to go to college for 2, 3, 4 years. So we give them a contracted amount of money, and then they will use that to help support people in college. Technically, they would not have to do that, but education's an important step in trying to find the job you're interested in. So it is one of the things we do different and can affect the work participation rate.
Yes.
Can I add on to that, Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Lemire.
I have maybe a similar question, but the MFIB wage you had mentioned is $13.95.
Yep.
Now, if that individual was on welfare, and then you get them a job with the MFIB at $13.95, do they cut them off of welfare, or do they still assist them to help them get on their feet so then they can take them off welfare in the future? How does that work?
That's going to be some of Karen.
That's Karen's expertise.
Yes.
If they get the job, okay, I'm going to use the example, they get the job in the month of September, okay? MFIP is prospective when you first put them on for the first 2 months. So if that client's been on, say, 10 months, September's income will be counted down the road 2 months. So October, November. In November, they fill out a household report form, turn in their check stubs. That's counted for their grant in November. So they actually get 2 full months that their income is not counted at all. And then when we do count it, we only count 50%.
Okay, thank you.
So it gives them some time.
Can you speak a little bit to medical assistance and food support, how it plays into those two?
Medical assistance, it's anticipated, so it may affect the medical assistance, but chances are if they come off MFIP, they're still going to be eligible for the medical because it's a much higher income standard, and also food support. Food support is higher also.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Gopinski, you wanted to make a comment. Go
Yeah.
ahead, please.
Yeah, I was going to actually mention this later in the presentation, but since Brad opened it up, I want to also add to what he was saying. Rural Minnesota SEP, we serve 19 counties with MFIP contracts. And Brad had mentioned that, they don't necessarily have to do the education piece, and we have counties that don't do that. They feel it is strictly a supportive service type of service that we should provide. What we try to remind is that we're an employment and training agency. And while supportive services Could be a gas card so they can get to a job interview, or it could be a voucher to buy an interview outfit when they go to their interview. We still do all of that, but the difference, and really my main reason for being here today, is to thank Morrison County for the support on that portion of what we do. We had an internal goal that we started several years ago, and I asked Judy Swenson, our counselor, if she thought we could get to the point where we would spend 50% of the contracted dollars on non-supportive service type items. So rather than just buying gas cards, paying for people's insurance, car repairs and things like that, while they're all important, and at times that's what is needed to get somebody to work, let's look at the work training piece, let's look at the education. There are so many benefits with a 2-year degree, an 18-month program, a short-term nursing program, short-term welding programs, all of which we have worked with several clients from Morrison County and put them through those programs. And today they're successful. There's nothing better than visiting with an MFIP client who maybe is down on luck for an awful long time, and now they've got a 4-year degree, and they're very successful and they've moved on. So that's my big thing. I think it's something that I know I'm very proud of, SEP is very proud of, but we can't do it without the support of Morrison County. And today, I think Sam's got it in her numbers here, but I think we're roughly at about 80% actually. So we far exceeded that 50% internal goal. But really just thank you. And I can tell you this, in our agency, the other 18 counties, that piece here is the role model, and now the rest of our agency is trying to get to those types of numbers. It takes time. It takes years. It really does. Because first of all, it's a mindset that we're not just another welfare system, if you will, okay? We're an employment and training agency. We want to prepare people for the sustainable career, and they become tax-paying citizens.
Commissioner Lemire.
On that, it not only benefits the individual, but, we're short of CNAs in nursing homes.
Yep.
It'll benefit them also, and we're
Yep.
short truck drivers, and it'll help the whole market, the economic market of the whole state.
Absolutely.
By doing that too, so it's forward thinking, definitely, and it's Brad and Karen that need to be thanked for that too.
Absolutely. That's what I have.
Well, and to Commissioner Lemire's point, I'll take this one step closer to home too. We have, we have a number of large employers who've recently announced great news in making, very, very tremendous investments in their companies in our community here. And a big part of their success will be on being able to find human resources. And I know that Carol Anderson from Community Development works closely and keeps in very close contact with you about helping these companies address those needs, but also for our existing small employers in the community who are continually looking for human resource help to keep their businesses viable in the community. The role that both of you play from both sides of the issue is extremely important in economic development within our community, and we're very grateful for that, for your work. Please continue, and I apologize.
No, you're good. Okay, so the second part of this page talks about self-support index. These are strictly numbers provided to us by DHS, and it's kind of a report that includes success rate at year 3 of exiting an MFIT program. So I wanted to share, these aren't always the most up-to-date because we have to wait for the state to put them on the system. But back in October 21 through December 2021, we were within the self-support index, which is great. And you will see that the January to March, we were just shy of within, and that I would attribute to a lot of part-time work and still some daycare potential issues. All right, next page has to do with MFIP closures to date. Over the course of the last fiscal year, we had 52 MFIP closures. Many of those closures were due to unsubsidized employment, which is wonderful. We did have 10 clients moving from the county, which caused closure of their case, and 14 for administrative separation. That has to do with lacking of turning in paperwork to the county, household report forms, things like that. And we did have a few go off the case due to no eligible child in the household anymore. Either children were taken away or a child turned 18 or graduated, making them ineligible. And then one deceased, unfortunately, due to the overdose issue. DWP closures to date, we just started this up again this past year. We're seeing low referrals at first, but now more are coming through on our system. So that's wonderful. We've had a number exit due to employment separation. Some were disqualified because of the employment service piece, and then we had a few referred to MFIP, sometimes because they are on college or education, flipping them over onto that MFIP program. The last page here just has to do with the good news that we're really excited about this past year being really successful. Several success stories. Just a couple I'll share. One specific client had a criminal background and was really finding that they were prohibited from many employment opportunities. We were able to provide support and assistance, which contributed to a job at Barrett Pet Food. They're doing really well, and they're going to be ending their assistance soon. We've had several go on to college. One is graduating this spring with a degree in accounting, already having a job offer. They'll be closing off the case once they start that employment. And we've also had some success with a few graduating from SCSU with a bachelor's degree in psychology, and then an RN graduating as well with 1 quarter left of college. She also has some job offers lined up. So some pretty awesome news in that area. Kind of going on the flip side, as discussed earlier, the barriers to employment we are running into is childcare continues to be an issue. Transportation issues, a lot we're finding are just lacking driver's license or a reliable vehicle. Domestic violence issues, we're seeing it a lot, and increasing amount of FSS clients. Kind of to sum it up, highlights and innovative ideas this past year. We were able to put 49 clients through the NCRC certificate, which is a nationally recognized assessment offered by ACT that helps measure someone's work skills and the success in different job industries. That has been a really great thing to see. Over 50% of the MFIP caseload has actually earned a certificate, platinum, gold, bronze, which is really wonderful for their resume. And 84% of our year-to-date MFIP budget has been spent on work experience and education, which kind of piggybacks on Brian's comment. We're really trying to focus it on that training piece and less on supportive services. Something new this year, we've also brought in the Little Falls Police Department and Hands of Hope to offer a domestic violence session to help address some of those issues and barriers to employment that we're seeing in more clients. So that's something new we've never offered before, and it was really well received. And we brought in a big ideas trailer. I don't know if you guys heard about that. Large trailer, virtual simulation, and you could experience the different trades. I know Karen went through it. We had several clients go through, and as well as attending our 2 job fairs this past year.
Karen's leaving us to drive truck now.
Yes. And you'll see in the last slide, there's a few pictures from the outdoor job fair. Very successful, over 60 employers present. Several clients attended, and we even had some that were able to find employment as a result of attending the fair.
It was excellent.
Thank you.
It's these last 4 slides, especially the 3 prior to the one we're looking at here, sends a very solid message to us and to the public out there that dispels this notion that once people enter a role of acquiring assistance that they never leave that position, which is is false and it's unfair. And the statistics and the information that you shared with us this morning basically throws that concept out the window because you've been able to show us success story after success story and graph statistics here that show that we do move these people from transitionary assistance for reasons maybe beyond their control, and are able to put these people back into the workplace. They become productive members of society and respectful members of the community out there. This is good things. There's a lot of good news in what you shared with us. Doesn't mean that there isn't still challenges, and we recognize that too. And we're very cognizant of that. We're cognizant of the childcare needs and of transportation needs within the community and within the county. And we continue to look for solutions to help address those. But don't be afraid to pat yourself on the back for tremendous success out there, and you're changing people's lives with your work and your commitment to your work. All of you, we appreciate that. Gentlemen, further comments?
Can't top that.
Good information.
And I do have to
We could always try. No, we
Yeah. I do have to thank Karen too, because she developed a good relationship with SEP, and they have good communication, and that's important as you talk about working with individuals coming through our office. And so appreciate the work that all of you do working together, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Brian, thank you.
Thank you.
No,
Thank you, guys.
but if you, I was reading the rest of it here the other day.
Yeah, I do too, though.
It says this is not an authorization to repair, see. I know.
Gentlemen, we're at the point in the agenda. We have the Public Works Report. Good morning, Tony. Thank you for being here with us.
Met your wife this morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. Yes, my wife has a group of students out at Camp Ripley this morning. I had the privilege to meet some of you. She did send a text and says thank you for putting it on. The students seem to be really enjoying that, so that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
What school does your wife teach at, Tony?
She's at the middle school here in Little Falls.
At the middle school,
So she
fantastic.
teaches sixth grade math, and I think the students were happy to get out of the classroom.
Oh, I'm sure. They learn a lot at that. That's an amazing day, if you will, that water festival. It's just, there's so much stuff that they get to see that they're exposed to. It's really a cool deal.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. So I'm sure he'll hear more about it tonight. But again, she says thank you for helping facilitate that. So I have a couple items this morning. Our first item comes way of Sheriff Larson. He was receiving some complaints in Uppsala, Minnesota about speeding. And he just forwarded an email to me, so I had my staff review that area. And when we looked into it, we noticed that a speed study hadn't been performed on Caseload 21 on the east side of Uppsala since 1979, and actually in place in 1982. You know, the board put in a school speed zone in 97, but you know, as the city of Uppsala, or town of Uppsala, has kind of developed, there's some additional homes outside of that area. And through our investigation, we'd like to request a resolution from the board. And that resolution is to authorize a traffic engineering investigation on Caseload 21, Walnut Avenue or 30th Street, between Trunk Highway 238 and 50th Avenue. And that resolution will be going to the Commissioner of Transportation to perform a speed study.
Make a motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Lemire, second by Commissioner Jelinski. Discussion. Commissioner Wilson.
I don't have a discussion on this, but we have a lot of people that ask us about speed on roads. Can you tell us how we get to this point? And I can see what we're doing here. We're asking now for that, but there's quite a few people that ask, especially in some rural residential areas. Can you explain that a little bit to us?
Yes, so there's actually two kinds of speed limits in the state of Minnesota. There are statutory speed limits and regulatory speed limits. Statutory speed limits are your 30 mile per hours or your 55s, and those are set on city streets and urban areas. And then your rural two-lane streets, or two-way county highways, state highways. And then when a request comes in, the local road authority will review the speeds in there. So say someone says, well, people are driving too fast, or sometimes it's the opposite, you know, it could be a lot faster, we're driving too slow. Then your local authority will take a look at it and decide if an adjustment may be warranted, or if there's different avenues to help progress the situation, whether that's additional enforcement, additional signing, something like that. So by state statute, it's actually statute 169.14. It requires the Commissioner of Transportation to conduct a speed study if you would like to change that speed limit. And in this case, we're looking at that area. We've seen additional development since the last one has been done. And just actually physically driving that, it does feel like maybe the speed limit could be adjusted, you know, coming in, you know, a little more outside of the town. That's why we're requesting this resolution to move forward with it. You know, sometimes we'll go to areas and we'll physically drive it, and we understand that sometimes people feel like it's going too fast, but it just often is not warranted with maybe the number of accesses, with sight distances, or something like that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it does. I guess I'm just trying to help people understand that there's a process that we need to go through when they're asking for this, and we notify you, and
Yep.
you work on whatever process that you do.
Yeah, it's a pretty lengthy process. So we do our internal review, and then if we think it's warranted to move it forward, then we come to the board to request that authorization for resolution. And then it'll go to the state of Minnesota, Commissioner of Transportation. It'll get distributed most likely to one of the district engineers, and then from there, a speed study will be done. And those results will come back to us, and we may or may not like the results. I've seen both ways in my
Yep,
career so
yep.
far.
Thanks for the explanation.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and Tony, and I appreciate this too, and gentlemen, so you're all understand, you know, on CASA 21, this is the road that runs along the south edge of the school in Uppsala and heads east, you know, eventually to Bolus there, and that road was just resurfaced. But as Tony had mentioned, there's been a significant housing development when you get out probably a half a mile maybe from the school there. So there's some, you know, there is some safety needs and development issues there that I think can certainly benefit from, at least from the study there. So I'm grateful for moving this forward. Further discussion. Commissioner Wincher.
Thank you. Again, in the city of Royalton, we had two of these done over the past 10 years, probably, these studies.
Sure.
And just to let people know, they're the ones that set the speed limit. They're the ones that set the distance between, you know, slow down between here and there. And in our case, you know, we got a brand-new school. We had this Bill Superette, and they left the speed limits alone. You know, so the study does, in the county, our county engineer has no control over these speed signs.
Yes, Commissioner Wincher, that's exactly accurate. You know, it's our due diligence to make sure these studies happen, but outside of that, they're outside of our control, and the state of Minnesota does set that. But thank you, sir.
Further discussion? Further discussion? If seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion prevails. Tony?
All right, our second one is we have a fire update and building recommendation. So as everyone's well aware, we've been going through the fire situation over at the back shop at the Public Works building. We finally have some of our final numbers coming in, and I'd like to review those with you. So our first item here, this is our actual claim sheet. You know, you saw this at one of our planning sessions. So when you look at the damage done to that building, we had just shy of that 1.6, or just over that $1.6 million of damage if we were to repair that building, with a net claim or a cash value of just over $1 million. So when we looked at that, and then we looked at how that building functions for our public works staff and the equipment that we're using today, we decided it was best to review all of our options, whether or not it was to repair that building or to move forward with replacing it. So to come up with some estimates, we solicited some different quotes, or essentially just help from different entities. One of them was MnDOT. One of them actually is a local group here, Integrity Group, just to put some numbers to us so we can have a better understanding of what it would be like to move forward. So here, Integrity Group's just showing a base project total of roughly $4.7 million if we were to construct a new building. And that's a very not a thorough estimate. It's a very brief estimate. It's looking at it from a large picture, but it gives us a very good idea of what it would cost to do a reconstruction building. And when we evaluated, keeping the building or replacing it, and then looking out, 10, 15, 20, all the way out to 50 years, ultimately I came to the decision, and some of the other staff, that it would be best to replace this fire damaged building, and that's where I'm bringing it to the board this morning. I'd like to request an action from the board to authorize the Public Works to move forward with the replacement of the building and start soliciting quotes or vendors to help with this process and move forward.
Wishes of the board.
I'll make a motion to move forward.
I'll second for more discussion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Lemire and a second by Commissioner Wincher to authorize the Public Works to move forward with the replacement of that building. Discussion. Commissioner Wincher.
And thank you, Mr. Chair. And Tony, I might have a couple more questions I'll think of down the road here. Anyway, the removal of the old building, that's not part of this estimate, or is it part of this? Is that gonna be something that we're gonna be getting estimates for to move forward?
So how the proposal will be set up, that's actually included in this estimate. They just took a stab at it.
Okay.
When they actually bid the project, so they'll have a removal item on there. I'm sure they'll have a specialty contractor that'll evaluate the building, probably look at it and see what's salvageable, and that's what's gonna come into their numbers. They'll start reviewing labor, disposal costs, what kind of funds they can get from salvaging steel and those kind of items, and that'll be built into that bid. So when they're looking at this preliminary estimate, they're just taking some numbers that they've experienced over the last couple of years, and that's where they're coming up with these numbers, just to give us a good base idea. Once we move forward with deciding to build a building and we hire some of these professionals, they'll be able to put a more detailed estimate together, and that's where we'll start seeing numbers a little more clear.
So now my last question was, that question I can think of, and we've discussed this and I kinda know the answer, but for the people out in TV land, why in the heck is it gonna cost us $4 million some dollars when I can put a shed up probably 4 or 5 times larger than this on my own personal property?
It's a little bit different structure than say a pole building. So the kind of the structures that we're looking at for Public Works, we're looking at something that's gonna last a long time. And that's why we're considering a building of this size. The one it's replacing, this building would be just a little bit larger, but the layout would be different with a larger span inside. Some of the items we were looking at are potentially a precast exterior. This holds up against salt. It's a very nice structural building. It would also match our aesthetics that we have there. Our current building, or our main Public Works building, is a precast structure. And then you start looking at a lot of the specialty components in there, whether or not it's thicker concrete for our large equipment that's in there, our in-floor heating system that we're probably be proposing, the different size garage types, and then just the clear span of that building adds into some of that cost.
Again, to follow up on my question, is there more rules and regulations for counties versus homes if I were to put on my own private property?
There's a little bit different building regulations for a commercial building, and it also comes into what we're storing in there with our actual vehicles and some of the clearances and requirements that we're supposed to meet for OSHA and different IDs like that, and that's where some of that will come into play.
No further questions this time.
Thank you, Commissioner Wincher. Commissioner Lemire.
I just want to move forward with what you were just mentioning with the OSHA rules and regulations. And if we would remodel that old building, as you know, our equipment, as you stated earlier, our equipment's bigger. Our we have wings now. The door, we can barely get in the doors. But one of the biggest issues is it doesn't meet the OSHA requirements required.
So one of the issues that we see is the amount of equipment we're currently putting in the building that burned to make sure that equipment stays heated for our plowing operations. We have to put it in there pretty tight, and sometimes those requirements can't be met when we're stacking all those trucks in there. So the building that we're proposing will be a clear span building, and you'd have potentially plenty of room for any of your vehicles and meet any of those requirements. Really what we've seen, and mentioned earlier was that building was 50-plus years old. Equipment's changed a lot in 50 years.
Just one more, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Lemire.
Our net claim recovery is 1.652 million. Will we receive that if we rebuild the building?
We're going to receive somewhere in between the 1.6 and the 1.1. I know Kurt from the administrator's office is working very thoroughly with the claims adjusters, and we're anticipating receiving closer to that 1.6.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Wilson.
That was my question that I was going to ask. And the reason was because our building was, at the 1.6, our building wasn't really totaled out, correct? Because the lean-tos, there's a bunch of lean-tos on that building that held other stuff, and they didn't burn. So that's why there's a difference between the 1 million versus 1.6, correct?
No, the damage to the building is the 1.6 million. They're valuing that building at a larger number than 1.6, probably closer to 3. So the 1.6 number you're seeing is what it would take to repair that building. So that would be the full cleaning, the new installation, full heating systems, electrical, structural. That's just to put that building back to the condition it was prior to the fire. The 1.07, 1.1 million for rounding is a walkaway number. So that number is, we say, okay, we're just gonna take the check for 1.1 million, and then we're walking away from that building. That doesn't include any demolition, that doesn't include a new building or anything like that. So that's where that 1.1 to the 1.6 is a negotiated value, because our intentions are to replace that building, just with a current one that meets our current equipment. That's where we'll be able to negotiate higher and hopefully receive that full 1.6 million from the insurance agency.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Lemire.
I just want, people out there to know that we've had at least a half a dozen conversations on this issue, so this isn't the first time we heard about it. We do have multiple ways that we want to propose to pay for this, but that we haven't worked out yet, but we do have a couple different directions that we're planning on going.
Thank you, Commissioner Lemire. And two, I'll make the point, and I know Tony had mentioned this, but this was a 50-plus year old building that when we look at building facilities, I think that's about as far out as you can expect to get life out of a structure. That structure had served its purpose. It's just unfortunate that we had a catastrophic fire that is forcing us to make this decision at this point in time here too. So further discussion. Seeing none, we have a motion by Commissioner Lemire and a second by Commissioner Wincher to have Public Works staff continue that plan to move forward with reconstruction.
And one more comment, Mr. Chair. Again, if the estimates come back at $9 million, we're not giving them carte blanche to do this, you know? It's, let's find out what this is gonna cost. That's what we're voting on here.
We're allowing for further investigation into achieving that goal. And we will, I can assure you, we will have further discussion on financing, on costs, and I know that Mr. Hannon will be very prepared, and his staff will be very prepared in presenting to us, and we will have respectful conversations about trying to achieve this goal, because this is a need of the county. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Gentlemen, this is a roll call. Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher.
Aye.
Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
And the chairman votes aye. All those voting in the affirmative, the motion prevails.
That's all I have for you, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tony.
Got a lot of work ahead of you, Tony.
We're moving forward.
We'll be a part of that work.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Tony.
Have a good day, Tony.
Gentlemen, we're at the administrator's report, and I see the first thing up here, Mr. LeBlanc, we're going to have Kurt come up and talk to us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, that is correct.
Morning, Kurt.
Morning, Kurt.
Morning.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, back.
You want Mike to come up right away or not?
It depends on the questions, I guess.
Okay.
So, before you today, I have a resolution for the 50-50 matching proposal for armor radios for the other local fire, police, and first response agencies. That number has come in at $531,746 as the total order. This would appropriate half of that, the $265,873 from lost revenue, and the other half would be matching through these agencies.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to move on this.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Jelinski, a second by Commissioner Lemire to authorize the expenditure of $265,873 through lost revenue for the purchase of some more radios for police, fire, and first responders. Discussion. Commissioner Wilson.
Yeah, now, Kurt, this'll go to the first responders. They've all sent you a list of how many radios they need, and I see some have different radios than others, but they're all willing to pay half of what we're doing here, right?
Yes.
And fire departments, and that everybody in the county should have the upgraded radios now that should last for a while. Is that right?
Yes, if they chose to do some or all of their radios,
Yep.
depending on their funding and what, any other situation that they would have maybe declined.
Did we also have some of the old radios that maybe went to some people to use or not?
They haven't went out yet, but that's the proposal.
So some of the radios, like let's say the sheriff's department's got now that are working and good, some of the first responders or fire department may get some of those?
Yeah, from what my understanding, there's 9 encrypted radios right now that can be repurposed. And
Okay.
the proposals for them to go to the smaller fire departments.
And the reason for that is because the radios that we have now, they're at the end of life, more or less. That's why we're going to these new ones, because they can't be fixed and my,
And the
Yes,
encryption
yeah.
portion of it, and that they can't be serviced no more, yeah.
okay, I just want to make sure everybody understands why we're doing this, and it's a great thing to do. I think our first responders, fire department will all have new radios, and that'll be great. And it came out of the ARP money.
For the discussion, Commissioner Wincher.
Thank you. Kurt, and help me out here. I mean, this is not the first discussion we had about this either, but did we not give, again, some of these fire departments first responses till September 30th to respond? And if that's the correct answer, have they all responded that they don't want it anymore, that we reached out to?
Yep, the report in here is what we've got from them, and that is as up to date as it can be, and we've heard from all of them right now. And it could be something for further discussion if we have some agencies come in after, or between now and the 30th requesting radios, but we have had confirmation from all of them on this list.
Thank you.
Further discussion, gentlemen?
And if we purchase these prior to September 30th, we got a 2% off of that price.
Yeah, just over 10,000
Mike
off
said
by
he
doing
might be
this.
able to get another two, we'll see.
I'll squeeze them a little harder.
Mike, they'll squeeze you.
I have one question for Kurt, and I'm not sure if you're even prepared to answer this at this time, but, so this 265,000+, we have also committed money prior to this from our lost revenue account to address, armor radios. And do you remember what that total was, or do you know that total? Was that about 600,000?
That's where it started, was 6,000 or 7,000 initially, and then as they got back, as these agencies got back to Mike or I, that it has dropped considerably as they went through their funding and what they're able to match us. So now that's
Mr.
down
Chair?
to Mr. LeBlanc.
I don't know if we got wires crossed, but just to clarify, the board has previously approved over $660,000 of lost revenue ARPA money for county-specific radios. So that outfitted our sheriff's department as well as our public works. In addition to that, the initial assessment for our first responder agencies was $700,000, and then as we had further dialogue of a 50-50 match, that's come all the way down to $265,873 coming from the county.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. LeBlanc. I was trying to get my arms around those numbers again. So we had already dispersed or earmarked about 660,000 to address public works and the sheriff's department and that.
More than earmarked, Mr. Chair, committed.
Spent, yeah, committed. Okay, so our total investment of that lost revenue fund then will be just under 900,000 then.
Just over, Mr. Chair, about 920.
920,000, okay. Further discussion?
I just want to thank you for all the legwork you had to do on this. I know we made you go back and forth a few times, but I'm happy that we'll be able to help out these fire department and first response teams, and it reaches every part of our county, and they need all the help that they can get. They volunteer a lot of their time, and they're the first ones on scene, and I'm just happy to help them out.
No one knows that more than you, Commissioner Lemire. That's I know that's your world. Further discussion? Seeing none, gentlemen, it's a roll call. Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
The chairman votes aye. All those voting in the affirmative, motion prevails. Thank you, Kurt.
Thank you, and I'd like to give a shout out to Mike Callback here from Granite Electronics. He did a lot of the legwork too, and we went back and forth quite a bit getting our numbers to match, and he was a big help in this process.
Yep, and Mike, thank you, because you've taken time out to come to be available to this board and to give input to this board on numerous occasions in the past. Hopefully, we won't have to pester you now for a while, but your presence has been extremely helpful.
Mr. Chair?
Certainly, Mr. Jelinski.
Mr. Call has been involved with public safety in Morrison County for a long time. It's through his cooperation, through the business with Kurt, that all this can be done. This is, as we all know, this is not a 5-second job of planning, spending, whatever it might be. I've been through this one time with Mike already, from start to finish. And it was not an easy job then. It was a difficult process, at the very least. So what we're doing today is a recap kind of what I'm talking about, but at the same time, this could not be done without cooperation from folks like Mike, Kurt, for yourself, I mean, it's a big deal, so, thanks.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead. No, Matt, you go first.
Mr. LeBlanc.
And great segue, Kurt's opening to Mr. Call, and to follow up to Commissioner Lemire's question last week, and the management of this now purchase. And so the work doesn't stop here for Mike. Granite is going to assist in the distribution of these radios as well. I think that was the question the Commissioner brought up, is then how to, from receipt to issuing, and so that is something that Mike will assist in overseeing to get the radios to the first responders.
Very good.
Commissioner Wilson.
Mike, is the availability of these radios, I mean, can we get them? You know how some of this stuff has been lately, that they're back ordered for a year and.
For example, the radio that I purchased in June, all the radios came in, but there's no chargers or speak mics for the radios. They're supposed to ship in November.
Okay, okay.
This order here, we're planning on having, at the very earliest, December 31st ship date. That way the cities can use their 2023 budgets to pay for them, because the bills won't come until 2023.
Okay.
They'll be, we might get equipment very quickly in January, or it might be in March or April before it's
Okay, thank you.
Okay, gentlemen. Thank you. So, Kurt.
All right, the next action I'm requesting is to approve the 2023 preliminary levy for the HRA of $40,000. That's the same as last year. And I had to reach out to Steve on this one. Well, why do we have the board approve this one? It's because it's county board appoints the HRA board, so then they set the levy.
That's
Make
correct.
a motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Lemire and a second by Commissioner Jelinski to approve the 2023 levy for the Housing Redevelopment Authority at $40,000. Discussion. Seeing none. Gentlemen, this is a roll call. Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher.
Aye.
The chairman votes aye. All those voting in the affirmative, the motion prevails.
Thank you, and then the next one I have is the preliminary levy and budget for the 2023 year for Morrison County itself. And we had been discussing this at the last couple planning sessions on where we were at. It started at around that 8%. We had got it down to 7%, and then now we're at the 5.95 as far as the preliminary percentage increase from 2023.
Mr. Chair, I'll move on this.
We have a motion by Commissioner Jelinski.
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Lemire to set the levy at $21,146,735 and the preliminary budget at $56,495,337. Discussion. Commissioner Wincher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kurt, again, our final levy is due when? End of December, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, and just, and again, we've been all through this before. This is a preliminary. We can't come back in 30 days and say, let's raise it to 12%, but we can lower it. We cannot raise it, we can lower it. That's the only way it's done, correct?
Yes, exactly. Yep.
And if I may, Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Lemire.
can you please explain to us the reason for the increases?
Yeah, so the actual budget went up 2.4 million from last year. About 1.5 million of that is non-labor cost. So, and less than $1 million was the projected labor increases due to COLA and steps, that kind of thing. So the biggest issue there, or not issue, is that we saw was inflation that hit hardest our sheriff's department and public works.
You want to add to that?
Well, I can, and thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioner. Substantial increases in the cost of fuel that we saw in 2022 and are forecasting for 2023 between $50,000 and $60,000 increase there that we didn't have previously. Seeing that fuel costs are coming down, these monies are being budgeted for, but they may not be executed. as well as the cost of equipment. Our tandem trucks and most of the rest of the equipment is coming in 30% higher than it was the year before. And when you're talking a $200,000 piece of equipment, that's a substantial cost as well. And it's hard to predict what the economy is going to do. This is our effort to be best prepared to be able to absorb some of this and to keep the county functioning. So this was our best look at the current state of the economy and what we think 2023 might cost.
And also, the price of oil, the construction costs of building roads has gone up considerably, and wages and insurances, and this isn't a number that we just pull out of a hat. Yesterday, we've had multitude of meetings, multitude of budget meetings with our department heads that had increases, and I believe it started at 12, didn't it?
It did. Initial preliminary, when I asked the question of the department heads to just come in with your budget, it was at 12%. And multiple meetings occurred just between myself and our CFO and the department heads, where we really took a hard look to say, to cut away the expenses that we didn't necessarily need for next year, and we're down now inside of 6%.
Very good, thank you.
And if I may, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Winchard.
For Matt or Kurt, again, when we bring up these dollar amounts, a lot of counties are struggling with their levies in that course. How are we sitting financially as far as the county for year to date?
I think we're sitting pretty well as far as fund balance, but this 5.95 does
Well, it'll
put
a
some
dent
in there.
it,
It
but
could.
it's not gonna break us.
But not necessarily. Depends on having the buffer of, well, maybe we'll be under budget and maybe our revenues will be higher than we expected, kind of thing.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. LeBlanc.
The county is in exceptional financial shape right now. We have one project that is bonded for, and that was the renovation of our government center that we are paying. That is the only open bond. We have very significant fund balances that keep us healthy, that allow us to have conversations of replacing a public works building without impacting levy. We are able to hold our current level of service to our citizens. In the past, the county did better last year, and if you're going to just measure by percentage, 2.06%. But 1.88% of that went to pay and benefits. So there was a smaller gap between what went to pay and benefits to what was levied. And now this year, we're trying to adjust for that, so it's less impactful in the out years. But our current financial shape is very comfortable.
Yeah, I believe, Mr. Chair, our fund balances all fall within the statutory requirements, which is something that not very many counties can say. So we're doing good in that respect.
And Mr. Chair, I think.
Commissioner Wilson?
I think Kurt made the right statement that inflation has hit us pretty hard on this one. The budget, with fuel and everything else, and even our highway department, they probably bid a lot of road projects at $3 fuel. When they got up to $5, that's probably what they're looking at this year to be bidding for, so.
Yeah, I think, the underlying factor is Morrison County is experiencing the effects of inflation that many families and many other units of government are also having to address this too. But I do think that we've taken a very conservative approach to addressing this. But we also have a window of time here between this action that we're taking here this morning, or I'll say this afternoon now, and when we set that final levy, and this board and staff will continue to work to see where we finally end up here. And our budget work is certainly not completed with this action here this morning or this afternoon here now. Further discussion. Seeing no further discussion.
I do.
Commissioner Wilson.
When people will think that this is possibly a tax increase of 0.99%. But what will really happen is new construction that's happened in the last year will kind of come off of this, right? For what their impact will be.
Yes, that's correct. It's generally been around 1%.
Okay.
So instead of 5.9, it's 4.9 for the existing
Okay.
parcels. But the new construction takes off. That adds to the tax capacity that covers about 1% of that again this year. And that's historically been about that 1%.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call. Commissioner Jelinski?
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher?
Aye.
Commissioner Lemire?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson? And the chairman votes aye. All those voting in the affirmative, motion prevails.
All right, the last thing I have on the agenda today is to request to set the public hearing for the 2020 county fee schedule, as well as the 2023 final levy and budget or truth and taxation meetings. So those hearings need to be held between November 25th and December 28th. They have to occur at or after 6 p.m. And it looks like the last couple of years there hasn't been too much consistency, so I wasn't sure what to recommend, but last year it was Thursday, December 9th. The year before that was Wednesday, December 2nd. So I'm guessing it depends on schedules and when we can get it in. I think December 20th is the meeting that we'd want to finalize or approve the final levy and budget. So as long as it takes place at least a week prior to December 20th, I think we'll be all right.
Mr. Chair?
We're not here. We're gone, we're out of town.
Gentlemen, Mr. LeBlanc?
Just as a reminder, gentlemen, for that first week of December, that's the AMC Annual Conference. So that Tuesday is typically when we have our board, but for that first week of December, that board meeting is currently scheduled for the 8th. And last year, that was the Thursday that we had this meeting at. So I might propose Thursday, the 8th of December at 6 p.m. if you're available. Thursday, the 8th of December at 6 p.m.
I think that's a great time myself.
The 8th of December?
8th of December at 6 p.m.
You gonna send us that?
And here in the boardroom. And we would start with the public hearing and then move into the truth and taxation.
And you're saying our Tuesday board meeting
What's that date?
Is already scheduled for the 8th based on the AMC Annual Conference, and it was approved by the board last year in our annual meetings publication. So ideally, on the 8th right now, there should be a meeting at 9 o'clock for the board meeting. And then that evening at 6 p.m. is when I'm proposing we do this public hearing.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Do we need a motion, or are we just putting that on our calendars? I don't think we need a motion, do we?
I think we'll want a motion. That's what it looked like we had done in the
Excuse
past
me,
anyway.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, I think we're going to, because if that is to set the public hearing date and time, we're going to need a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to have our truth and taxation on Thursday, December 8th at 6 p.m. here in the boardroom.
As well as the public hearing.
I'm sorry, that's what I meant. Truth and taxation, public hearing. Yes.
Mr. Chair, I'm so sorry.
No, do not apologize. Mr. LeBlanc.
To set public hearing date and time for the 2023 county fee schedule and 2023 final levy and budget truth and taxation. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Boy, did you put it a good way.
I was just trying to shorten it up.
But I thought he said that.
Thank you, Mr. LeBlanc. We have a motion by Commissioner Jelinski and a second by Commissioner Lemire to set these dates. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion prevails. We have a date.
And that's all I have, unless you have anything for me.
Kurt, it's been wonderful. We've covered a lot of ground.
Mike, thank you for all your work too. with that stuff.
All right, thank you, commissioners.
Gentlemen, should we do schedules?
I've got one RBA for the board, and then, and if that, however you want to do, Mr. Chair.
Let me do the RBA.
Should we do the RBA?
That's,
I think that's what's next on the agenda, if that's okay.
that's the closing of the session.
So,
We should do our
Schedules first.
that's what I was thinking, but you guys were, okay. So gentlemen, we're gonna do schedules. And I look to our deputy clerk, for dates.
September 25th through August 8th.
October?
That's what I meant.
September 25th.
Commissioner Jelinski, batting leadoff.
Okay, Mr. Chair, starting on September 27th at 8:30 in the morning, we should have a planning meeting. Later that morning, sometime around 11 o'clock, we should have a ditch authority meeting. Later on that evening, at or about 6 p.m., Planning Commission Board of Adjustments meets here in this room, and as a note, there is no Planning Commission that evening. On the 28th at 9 o'clock in the morning, I have a Central Minnesota Emergency Services Board Executive Committee, and at 1 o'clock, the Central Minnesota Emergency Services full board meets. As it is right now, that is virtual, thank you, sorry about that.
No, you're fine.
Currently, it's still being that way, but I'm pretty sure that sooner than later, that organization will meet together. On the 30th of September at 10 o'clock in the morning, I have a Central Minnesota Emergency Services Joint Powers Board meeting. Excuse me, did I say emergency services? I think I did. Emergency EMS, and that is also virtual. At 8:30 in the morning, we have a Public Works Planning meeting that same day on February 30th. Am I right?
October 30th?
I'm wrong on that.
September 30th?
Excuse me. I think there was going to be a Public Works Planning meeting on that day. No, that's changed. Sorry. Excuse me.
October?
October 1st is my 40th wedding anniversary. Anybody want to know that? Probably not. It's written down here.
Where's it at?
Yeah, right. It's in my book.
I'm gonna check with your better half just to make sure you're right on that year.
Right on that. On the 4th of October at 9 o'clock in the morning, we have a county board meeting at 9 o'clock in the morning, and prior to that, at or about 8 o'clock or 8:30, I think maybe it is, right?
8:45.
8:45. 4-H is here, and 4-H is going to have a 4-H breakfast for the commissioners.
And we wear our green shirts.
And we wear our green shirts. That's, I usually say it like this, is that's the only board meeting of the year that I don't do a tie. I wear my 4-H shirt that day.
Yep.
Oh, you're right.
Also at 11:30 that same day, that same morning, Morrison County Employee Association is having a cookout. And
Who is?
the board is invited to that.
It's like they have a
Morrison County
cookout.
Employee Association.
Right here.
They're having a baked potato lunch. That's outside, I believe.
What Jim Sagler gave you.
Yep. However that works. On the 6th of October at 10 o'clock in the morning, I have a Central Minnesota Emergency Services Board Legislative Committee. And if I understood the sheriff right, at or about 8 o'clock that morning, there's going to be coffee with the cop at the Little Falls Senior Center. That, I think that is everything, except Public Works at 8:30 in the morning on Friday the 7th, which I did have crossed out, but it is on my calendar.
No more hunting?
And that, I believe, is all I have, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Winter?
I think he covered, other than the most important thing for me in October is Commissioner Jelinski's been married 40 years. I'll be married 42.
See, look at that.
4th of October.
On the 4th, look, hey, it's not too bad. And our birthdays are pretty close,
Into
too.
the same wife.
That's right, onto the same wife, that's right, yeah.
Guys got married during duck hunting.
We got it, that's exactly
Trust
true.
me,
Opening day for me, trust me, I know
Well,
that.
we got married on duck hunt, boy, all the crap from everybody.
Was your father-in-law standing there with a shotgun?
Yeah.
Don't answer that.
Probably don't wanna go
Commissioner
there.
Lemire?
I just have the 26th, Community Health Needs Assessment. It's going to be Morrison County Government Center Boardroom at 2:00. And you got the ditch authority meeting?
Yep.
Breakfast. Kipper. He's got me. That's it.
Mike, help us out.
I've got on the 28th, I got something with corrections, but I've got I think it's a meeting somewhere, a banquet, so I need to find out exactly where it's at and what for you. But it's with corrections.
I think I remember seeing that too.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, what do you have?
I can add nothing to that, but I also have to say that when we set the date for the truth and taxation, that Commissioner Jelinski, I may have to have you run the board meeting because I will be out of town for another board commitment that Thursday morning. So when we get out into December. Oh, I actually,
Here we go. Light bulbs just
I
went
can,
on.
I can
Switch.
add,
Click.
I can add something. I have it highlighted in yellow on my thing and I can't read it, but I know what it is. And so on the week of October 3rd through the 7th is the ballots for those precincts who vote by mail will be sent to the public that week, the week of October 3rd through the 7th, if that matters. Other than that, I have nothing else. And so then, gentlemen, at this time, I look to our illustrious administrator, who would like to have us,
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair, to go into closed session.
Second.
thank you, Commissioner Lemire and Commissioner Wincher. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion prevails. We will enter into closed session in about
To discuss